Welcome to today's lecture on the first humans, a journey that takes us back millions of years to explore the origins of our species. This lecture will trace the major stages of human evolution, beginning with Homo habilis, often regarded as the handyman for his tool-making abilities, followed by Homo erectus, the first of our ancestors to walk fully upright and migrate far beyond the African continent, and culminating in Homo sapiens sapiens, our own species, who would eventually populate the globe. We will examine not only the biological and technological developments that defined these early humans, but also the great migratory patterns that saw human beings spread from Africa into Asia, Europe, and beyond. Along the way, we'll consider the archaeological and anthropological evidence for the emergence of complex social structures, symbolic expression, early spiritual beliefs, and cultural practices such as burial rites, art, and communal living. In short, this lecture explores how the first humans were not only biological beings, but also the creators of the first human societies and worldviews. By the end of our discussion, you should have a clearer understanding of how early human evolution, migration, and culture laid the foundations for all later civilizations. We are going to cover the majority of human history, a full 95% of it, in just the first lecture of the course. And if this sounds a little bit strange to you, let me try to explain it with a visual that's a bit more understandable to the human mind. Let's pretend that all of human history happened in the span of 1 year's time. January 1st would mark the origins of the Earth. By the end of February, the first simple cells appear. All the way through the spring and the early summer, simple plants enrich the atmosphere with oxygen. Around mid-August, complex cells emerge and coral appears in the ocean, beginning in mid-November. The ocean fills with multicellular life forms. In the last few days of November, freshwater fish appear and the first vascular plants begin to grow on land. About December 1st, amphibians venture onto dry land. The great swamps that form today's rich coal beds existed between December 5th and 7th. On December 12th, the largest of the Earth's mass extinction wipes out 95% of all species. Life bounces back and the dinosaurs evolve. On December 13th, flowering plants come on the scene. On December 20th, in another great extinction, the dinosaurs disappear. Shortly before midnight on December 26th, opening a space for modern mammals to emerge on the 27th of December. On the evening of December 31st, about when you might gather with friends for the evening celebration, the first hominids evolve in East Africa at 10 minutes to midnight on December 31st. About when all the New Year's partygoers are really starting to watch the clock, Neanderthal spread throughout Europe. At 1 minute to midnight, agriculture is invented. The Roman Empire fills just 5 seconds and collapses at 11:59 and 50 seconds. The moment when the New Year's ball starts to slide down the pole at Times Square and the great 10-second countdown begins. In the last 2 seconds before midnight, we enter the modern industrial era. In those last 2 seconds, we find the explosive growth of the human population, the rise of complex technologies, and what might be called a globalized human culture. The entire history of the United States fits into the last second of this narrative. The rise of capitalism, big business, and the petroleum era of cheap and plentiful energy is crammed into the last half of a second. As we are holding a deep breath, ready to shout our start of a New Year's greeting, the fireworks start as our dash through Earth's history brings us to the current moment right here and now. To put this in further perspective, most people think that what Americans have been doing in the 2 seconds since the Industrial Revolution is the normal, natural, and maybe even the only way to run a society. They are considered normal, but they are really stark raving mad. If we keep flowing in our compressed race through global history, by the time we have finished shouting Happy New Year, We are already 200 years in the future. The available supplies of oil will have been exhausted, and the effects of global climate change will have taken dramatic hold if our current way of life continues. A huge percentage of the Earth species, both plant and animal, will have been driven into extinction by the time you take your first deep breath. In the next year, the Earth's climate and biology will have been forever altered by the human influences of the previous year's last moment. In this compressed history, the age of dinosaurs lasted almost 2 weeks. Unless we change our ways dramatically, the age of humans may only last 15 or 20 minutes, and the span of human civilization will fill less than 2 minutes. And beyond this, it raises questions about our social systems. People perceive them as being unchanging and immutable, yet the gender roles that we cherish, the social hierarchy of wealthy versus poor that we are so used to, the religions that we know and love, and even the sexual norms that are accepted by modern society have only been around for the blink of an eye. In many ways, this class will focus on understanding changes in perspectives on race, class, social hierarchy, religious beliefs, and systems of thought, and understanding in the world around us. It is important to remember that based on the short period that humans have been around on this planet, nothing is immutable, unchanging, or everlasting. All cultures, peoples, and places are valuable to learn about and understanding, and in the end, perhaps your own views and beliefs about what makes a perfect society run may even be challenged or changed based upon the historical knowledge that you garner throughout the semester. After all, isn't the point of education to use factual information to challenge preconceived notions and continue to improve our world? Much of the timeline we have discussed thus far is based upon the theory of evolution. It is important to note that not all students believe in this theory. There may be some students who believe in creationism, or others who believe in a mixture of creationism and evolution. I highly encourage students to explain their unique points of view throughout the class, but also to keep an open mind as well. This kind of diversity of opinion is essential to a well-rounded class. That being said, the theory of evolution is important to teach as it is the general consensus of much of the scientific and historical community. While I don't require students to uphold any one belief system, I do expect students to understand the basic concepts behind the theory of evolution and the way in which this theory would explain the development of early human history. According to the theory of evolution, life began billions of years ago when a group of chemicals inadvertently organized themselves into a self-replicating molecule. This tiny molecule then gave rise to everything that has ever lived on the planet. Different and more complex organisms grew through mutation of DNA and natural selection, with the end result, of course, being Homo sapiens sapiens. As is evident in popular media such as television shows, articles circulating on the internet, and even through conversation, many people have several incorrect beliefs about the theory of evolution. The most common misconception is probably that evolution supports the idea that humans evolved from monkeys. Instead, the theory of evolution actually argues that humans share a common ancestor with modern African apes, such as gorillas or chimpanzees. That ancestor is often referred to as the missing link and probably existed around 5 to 8 million years ago. Shortly after this species diverged into 2 separate lineages, one to chimps and gorillas, and the other to human ancestors, which are called hominids. Approximately a dozen different species of these hominids or human-like creatures existed. Most went extinct without giving rise to other species. However, some are the direct ancestors of Homo sapiens sapiens. While the total number of species that existed and the relationship among them is unknown, unearthing of fossils helps paint the picture more clearly. For the purpose of this lecture, we are just going to look at 3 of the hominids that anthropologists and archaeologists know the most about. So we're going to start with Homo habilis. The name in Latin means handyman, and Homo habilis inhabited parts of sub-Saharan Africa about 2.3 to 1.4 million years ago. As you can see from these pictures, they were rather short with disproportionately long arms that are reminiscent of apes. They had sloped and protruding faces, and as you can tell from the size of the skeleton here, their cranial capacity was slightly less than half of the size of modern humans, which means that their ability to reason was not quite as developed as modern humans. And the reason that they got the name Homo habilis, or handyman, is actually because they were the very first creature to make tools. The second hominid species you should know about is Homo erectus, which means upright man. They got this nickname because they were the first bipedal hominids, meaning that they walked on two legs. Homo erectus inhabited Africa and spread to India, China, and Java from around 1.3 to 1.8 million years ago. Compared to Homo habilis, they were slightly taller with more proportionate arms. They are also the first hominid species to exemplify sexual dimorphism. Sexual dimorphism is simply the fact that men are typically about 25% larger than females. They also usually have more dense bones and muscle mass. In addition, Homo erectus had less sloped faces and less prominent cheekbones. Their cranial capacity was slightly greater than that of Homo habilis, but still less than modern humans. What makes Homo erectus so unique is that they were the first hominids to use controlled fire, and controlled fire was particularly important for cooking food, keeping warm as humans could move to colder climates, and used for slash and burn agriculture and also for the creation of tools. The last hominid creature for you to know about is Homo sapiens. The name Homo sapien means wise men in Latin, and Homo sapiens are divided into two categories. The smaller of the skulls represents Homo sapien neanderthalensis, and these are the cavemen that you often see on the Geico commercials, also called Neanderthals or Neanderthals. The second and larger skull represents Homo sapiens sapiens, and this one should sound familiar as modern humans are actually Homo sapiens sapiens. So Homo sapiens originated in Africa about 200,000 years ago, and they reached full behavioral modernity around 50,000 years ago. They are the tallest of the hominid species. They have more erect body carriage and have free thumbs for manipulating objects, even less of a sloped face and less prominent cheekbones and brow ridges. Most importantly, they have a highly developed brain that is capable of abstract reasoning, problem solving, rationality, and self-awareness. They also make far greater use of tools than compared to the early Homo habilis hominids. Here is a quick chart that I've created comparing Homo habilis, handyman, to Homo erectus, upright man, to Homo sapiens, wise man. You may wish to write down some of these notes so that you have the information readily available.